Welcome to Mallet and Michelle on Dripping Springs, hosted by me.
Michelle. Hi.
Shut up. That's what you would tell me.
We make ourselves crack up. I don't think anybody else laughs at us, but we sure make ourselves laugh.
I think a lot of people laugh at us.
Laugh at, not with us. Laugh at us. Yes.
I don't care.
Hey, the show today brought to you by Capital Farm Credit, M. Elliott Studio, and the Mallet Integrity Team. Boy,
yes.
I'm fully caffeinated right now.
Yes, and I'm going to dedicate this show right now, Steve, to your mother. Because your mother...
Mom, I love you.
Yes, and she
love
texted
you,
the other day, and you're not calling your mother enough, Steve. And you know what?
I promise I'm going to be better.
Yes, call your mother. And she's an amazing woman because she had to raise you.
Yes, and look how I turned out. Didn't I turn out great?
Yeah, well, not in spite of her. Yeah.
Hey, guest today... Marshall Kuykendall for the second time.
Woo, I'm buckling it up for that.
He's got more stuff in his head than I think I've ever gotten in my head in 60 years. He just pulls it off. Boom, numbers, dates, boom.
My head's like popcorn. Mine just goes.
Well, he's going to come in and talk to us about the history of Hays City, Texas, where the Hays City store is now. There was actually at one point there was a little town there.
Yeah.
Hays City. So
hey, I was confused because I thought it was Hays County, but he was going to talk about Hays City, and I didn't even know there was a Hays City.
You know what my computer's doing right now? Because you're saying Hays City.
Hays City?
It's thinking you're saying, hey, Siri.
Uh-oh.
So my computer is listening to us.
Sorry, Siri.
Marshall's going to come in here in a little bit, and we're going to catch up with him. So...
wait, before you get into something serious.
Oh, I was going to get into something serious.
I know. I wanted to ask you because, remember I used to do like these little like Steve-isms and stuff?
Uh-huh.
I haven't done a Steve-ism in a long time, but this isn't necessarily a Steve-ism. But I did want to ask you, Steve, if you could be, because we interview people all the time. Mm-hmm. And now even when we're off the podcast, we seem to be interviewing family and friends. If you could be an animal, Steve, what animal would you be?
An elephant.
Why?
Because they can just go wherever the heck they want and everybody gets out of their way and they just break things and...
I thought you're going to say because they don't forget things and you forget everything. No. I thought that's what...
Elephants just do whatever they want.
Oh, okay.
If you think about it.
I'm an elephant then, apparently.
Yeah, I guess so. Does anybody ever tell an elephant what to do? Even like the trainers in the zoos and the circuses
Elephants
and
are
stuff.
Like big dogs. They are like great big dogs.
Yeah, but they do what they want.
They do. Okay, well, then you're...
And there's food for them everywhere.
Okay. What did I tell you I was...
What would you be?
I told you the other day, a feral golden retriever. Because I'm a people pleaser.
That's not even a stretch in the imagination for me to think of that.
Yeah, I'm a people pleaser, but at the same time, I'm a little crazy. So
yes, you are. I do. Now I got to do something serious.
Now serious.
Okay. Would you like to have 15 days of income from the rent of your house completely tax-free?
Oh, yes. Because you can rent your house out.
Don't kill my story now, Michelle.
Am I right? Because let me just regurgitate what I'm limited knowledge. Can you not rent your house?
Is this a popcorn moment like you were just talking about?
Yeah. Can you rent your house 15 days out of the year without being taxed on that? That's
exactly right.
But who do you rent to?
Whoever you want.
You want to rent my house, Steve?
Yeah. Actually, this is how the story got interesting because there were three guys in Mississippi, two doctors and a orthopedics, a device salesperson. And they came up with this, they own this company and they came up with this plan where they would each rent their house for a day for company meetings, quote unquote, and at the rate of $3,000 a day.
We are
for
going
15
to
days.
tax jail. Yeah.
And the IRS said, no, that's too much. And they actually went all the way to court. And the judge sided with them and said, no, this exemption is called the master's exemption. It was originally came up because people in Augusta, Georgia were renting out their house during it's the U.S. Open, right?
I don't know.
I think so. And I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
The golf.
Yeah. And so they would, if they rented their house for less than 15 days during the year, it was all completely tax-free.
Okay.
And so these guys did it.
But you're not an accountant.
No, I'm not an accountant.
Yes.
If you have questions about this is just an interesting story.
Yes, okay.
This is not advice.
Okay.
This is not tax advice. But these guys, at $3,000 a day, the judge ruled that they could take the deduction. If it's a deduction, they could claim that as tax-free income, but not at that rate because that was more than the market rent. The judge said, no, it's more like $500 a day for a house. And so he cut down how much they could rent it for. There's a couple things about this to be aware of. But if you think about it, in Austin, we've got F1, we got ACL, we got South by Southwest. There's all kinds of reasons why people would come here and want to rent a house.
But you're restricted by your deed restrictions, right? Or maybe you just creep it out on Craigslist. Yeah, that's what I want is a Craigslist killer in my house.
Yeah. So, you could rent your house. You could probably you could get 30 people sleeping in your house, or you rent it for $2,000 a night.
I got ideas right now.
Yeah.
I got ideas.
Yeah. So you could get, say you rented your house for $1,000, you could get $15,000 of tax-free income. The things to watch out for, though, and this is why you need to talk to your CPA.
Okay.
There's about 5 or 6 rules about this. If you don't follow them, that's it. It's taxable income.
Okay.
One is, if you do it more than 15 days, like if you do it 16 days, you don't still get the 15 days. The 16th day means that's all taxable
I'm going to
income.
say rent 14, get the 15th free, just to be safe.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
They don't have to be continuous days.
Okay.
It does have to be a dwelling unit, meaning a house.
So I can't rent out my 4th car garage.
No, you cannot. And you have to 1099 the people. So, yeah. So there's, but if you follow the rules, you could get some taxable income.
I'm going to be rich and I'm going to put it all towards my property taxes because they're going to go up like crazy this year.
You probably, if you rented your house for $1,000 a night, I don't think 15 days of that would cover your property taxes anymore. But
they're probably going to, I'm probably going to have to give some of that back because they'll probably need like mental help after staying with me because.
Oh, would you still stay there at the house? I guess you would, because you're not
yeah.
going to let people in your house without
No way.
you
And you're going to have to feed my dogs and you're going to have to mow the grass. And
consider that part of the adventure.
There you go. Ooh,
Yeah.
It's like an adventure
Talk to your
camp.
CPA.
Please do. Speaking of having guests or unwanted guests, I'm going to talk about something very, very serious here for a second. Okay, you ready for this?
I'm not sure if I should smile or laugh or
I know.
get out of the room.
It's actually not a laughing matter. So Governor Abbott just came out today. By the time this comes out, it'll be like about a week old or so, but has ordered all of our flags at half staff and extra security around synagogues and Jewish schools, an executive order preventing purchases in the Gaza Strip. And there's one more thing. It was something about $4 million for security and stuff like that. But this is all in response to what's going on in Israel right now. But along with that, I kind of was doing a little digging. And do you know that since April of 2022, Texas has bused more than 50,000 migrants to sanctuary cities? And where are they going? They're going to Los Angeles. I love this. 940 of those people went to Los Angeles. So out of these 50K, there were 1,130
I hope they're not sleeping
buses.
in those tent cities. That's terrible.
3,200 went to Denver. 13,500 went to Chicago. 18,500 went to New York. 3,200 went to Philadelphia, and 12,500 went to D.C.
These are all sanctuary
These
cities.
are all cities that the mayors have come out, mayors, governors, or whatever, and have said, our doors are open, and now they are panicking because they are experiencing exactly what down in our
We've
lovely...
been experiencing here in Texas for decades.
But especially over the last couple of years. Governor Abbott said it's a crisis. It's chaotic, and it must stop. And it most absolutely must stop. Abbott blames President Biden for the influx of migrants at the border, and I'm sure he's not wrong in that. But it's very concerning considering what is going on in Israel right now. And can you imagine we're having ACL going on right at this moment?
Yeah.
And
that's what scares me.
well, you have
if a similar thing happens at ACL, there could be potentially thousands of people killed.
absolutely. You have
or any
party
big
goers,
festival
any
in
big
the United
festival, but you
States.
have party goers out there just enjoying themselves, living their best life, and now you have paratroopers. Now we're in Texas, but
Yeah.
still, you're having armed people fall from the sky, and my
Yeah.
plea right now is, don't look away. Watch every video that you can, because if you are shielding your eyes to what is going on overseas right now, it is going to be in our back door. Hamas has killed not only Israelis, but they've killed Americans, Italians, just Germans. They're killing grandmas.
Just
they're caging
indiscriminate
babies.
killing.
Yes, they're raping women in the streets while their mother watches. These people are subhumans.
Well, it's evil.
They're
That's
beheading
out
babies.
and out evil.
They are. It is disgusting. And
I heard a thing on the radio today that I think it was the State Department came out and said, "Hey, good news. We've captured coming across the border of the United States 151 terrorists and put them behind bars." And if you read further down in the article, they estimate another 1.5 million got through without being detained.
it is just
Potential terrorists.
It
not,
is,
not
yeah,
like
not
people
all
on
of
a
them.
watch list. Or
Look,
something like
I
that.
mean, I get that there are some people. It is not the majority of people, but there are some people there that are looking for a better life. I understand that. I'm a border girl. I was born in, for the most part, raised down in the Rio Grande Valley. I've always kind of dealt with this. But what makes this religious war in general so heinous is that in order to destroy a religion, you must kill every man, woman, and child who embraces that religion. And I don't understand this.
There was a pro-Palestine rally in New York. By now, this would be, I don't know, about 10 days ago.
New
by the
York,
time this comes
Chicago.
out. Yeah, I know. But there was a big one in New York. And there were people walking. These are American citizens walking down the street with signs that said, "By any means," meaning, hey, whatever it takes. Are you freaking kidding me? I'm all for free speech. But at some point, you're an idiot. I don't even think you should be allowed in this country. If you're saying by any means, meaning, yes, if we have to kill women and children to get our way, we'll have to do that. That you're talking about the most heinous dictators that we've ever had that had those policies. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think
People need to read some history.
in Australia there were chants for gas the Jews. And along with that, we've had several guests, especially like the Dugout, Orit Mann.
Yeah.
She's from Israel, and she has reached out to me. And there's something that I found online, and it's a little snippet, and I want to read it. And it's an actress. Her name is Erin Foster. She posted this online, so these are not my words. This was on an Instagram story. But it basically says, I'm going to read it, a little snippet of it. Let's be very clear. There's nothing progressive or liberal in being anti-Israel. If you think you are on the right side of defending what happened, you are either deeply misinformed or you do not believe in human rights. Hamas does not believe in having a Palestinian state. They want to demolish the state of Israel and the Jewish people. They want to demolish all Western cultures. Israel is the only democratic state in the Middle East, the only place where you can be openly gay, a place where women have independence. Supporting Hamas is not supporting innocent citizens, which there are many. It is supporting a jihadist terrorist group that celebrates murder in the streets and does not believe in human rights of any kind, including yours. And I say from myself right here, we actually have a very dear friend of ours that lives in Israel. He's a little bit further away from the conflict. My daughter's company is actually based in Israel. They are at their annual conference right now, and all military-age men, the sales guys that were there, they were there for 2 hours. They had to turn around and fly right back to Israel.
Yeah.
From myself, I'm saying I support Israel. I think Texas supports Israel, and I think you should support Israel.
Oh, yeah. And this is Israel's 9/11 moment.
It absolutely is.
Hundreds of people. There's over 100 hostages, but I don't know what the latest death toll is, but I've heard numbers anywhere from almost 1,000 down to some smaller number. But it doesn't matter. It's like people were at a concert dancing, and while I read that while some people were running away, the terrorists shot them in the legs so that they wouldn't die, that they could take them hostage.
Oh, yeah. Well, there was a grandmother that they had, and they tortured this poor woman, and then they put her pictures on Facebook for her family to see. So this is just, it's heart-wrenching to me. And look, if you don't like what I'm saying, that's fine. You have a right to your opinion.
Yeah.
Please send us an email at malletmichelle@gmail.com. But, sorry.
It's important. I mean, we try and be very light and upbeat on this show, but this is huge. This is history in the making, and I think for us to just ignore it would be not responsible.
No, I think everybody needs to pay attention, especially as a Texan, because this is coming on your border, in your streets. Go to downtown Austin.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I hope you have something a little bit more lighthearted than that.
I do. I had a light story, but I think it'd be hard for me to continue after that. I mean, I'm glad that you brought it up. It is hard to hear, and I think what you said is don't look away is probably the most important thing.
Don't look away.
Don't act like, that's just happening in another part of the world. This is big. It's huge.
It could be your own backyard.
It could be here, and that's one of the reasons to be upset and concerned about it. But, the fact that these were human beings just going about the course of their life, trying to enjoy, and somebody decided that they didn't deserve to live and just randomly started killing people is atrocious.
Yeah.
So, well,
with that,
yeah.
Sorry, Marshall.
I know. So, yeah. Marshall's got, he is one of the biggest characters in Dripping Springs. If you walk into Time and Doe just about any day during the week, they're sitting over there in the corner telling stories. And if you could sit there and listen in, you're going to hear some great ones. And he's going to bring some with him today. So.
He's definitely a historian that I think is a dying breed now. And people don't remember their past to do better for our future. And I think to have someone like Marshall sit down and share his stories that he does, it just makes us appreciate him.
With such enthusiasm. He loves the history of Texas. He loves the history of his family. Every time you talk to him, you can just hear it in his voice. So we're going to get to spend some time with him, and I'm really looking forward to it. So let's take a little break and get him and his cowboy hat in here, and we'll have a great time. Proudly sponsored by...
At Capital Farm Credit, they understand that owning land is more than just a transaction. It's a legacy, a future, and a place to call your own.
For generations, Capital Farm Credit has been the trusted lending partner for land loans, farmers, ranchers, and rural dreamers just like you.
Their personalized loan solutions cater to your unique needs, making the journey to land ownership smoother than ever.
Capital Farm Credit, your land, your legacy. Visit CapitalFarmCredit.com or Mark Rutledge at 512-892-4425.
Capital Farm Credit, an equal credit housing lender.
Interior design should be an investment in your life and home. Let M. Elliott Studio transform your space, where interior design meets excellence in Central Texas.
Beyond just selecting colors and furnishings, team principal and owner, Montana Elliott, is a trained and licensed interior designer.
With her knowledge of architectural principles, building codes, space planning, and design theory, her team will work with you to understand your needs and lifestyle.
From concept to completion, M. Elliott Studio is committed to enhancing your space with a timeless and classic style.
Ready to redefine your space?
melliottstudio.com, 512-781-0224.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Mallet Integrity Team of real estate professionals. They are based in Dripping Springs and bring you over 45 years of combined experience helping people reach their hill country real estate dreams. When you want the best in town, call them at 512-829-2062 or look them up at malletintegrityteam.com. And now, here's Steve and Michelle.
Welcome back. We are so incredibly honored to have back with us in the studio the famous Marshall Kuykendall.
Marshall Kuykendall, welcome to the show.
Gracious, thank you kindly. I hope you'll give me a present
We did give you a present.
It's under the table.
Yeah, we got stuff.
Well,
We'll
you
give
give
you
me a glass of water. That's even better.
That's the best.
We got swag
Since
for
we're in a
you.
major drought right now, I can drink the water and I get a chance.
Hopefully that drought's going to go away, but I don't see any rain
It
on the
always
horizon.
rains after a drought.
It always does. Well, you came on with us in episode 73 and 74, and we talked a lot about how your family came to Texas. So if anybody wants to listen to that, they can go back and look those up from a few episodes ago. But today we wanted to talk to you about the history of Hays City, Texas. Is that what you were going to talk to us about?
That's exactly. That would be it was a cleaner subject than anything else I could think of today.
We don't necessarily need to be
just
the clean
go for
stuff.
that.
No. I'm gonna get all comfortable in my chair because I'm not gonna do hardly any talking.
No, that's
today.
not true.
And I'm so looking forward to enjoying this story, and listening to the story.
Yeah.
You know, when you reminded me again that I was going to be on today, and I was laughing about the fact that you'd mentioned this date back in the spring, and I told you could just kiss it goodbye because I sure as hell wasn't going to be here. But here I am, and
There you are.
And your birthday's in a couple of days. Happy early birthday.
In a few days, and so what to talk about, and this Hays City just popped up for a couple of reasons. I think I told y'all the last time I was here that in doing my research over the years, I struggle with it so hard on history and all the things I get involved in, which are a lot. I wear a lot of hats. Of course, my main hat for the last 65 years has been real estate, in the fact that I'm a ranch broker, meaning RANCH, not houses. And I've handled most of the big ranches in Hays County in my lifetime. And out west, the biggest ranch I think I ever sold was 45,000 acres south of Marathon a long time ago. But the majority of my other ranches were here in Hays and Blanco County. But having said that, I told y'all I was born on the biggest ranch in Hays County after 1900. No, I don't mean that I was dead. But my grandfather bought 11,000 acres in Hays County in 1901. And so I'm familiar with all of it and all that. And down on the southwest corner is what we call the Hays City Corner. And it's just an intersection of roads. And of course, I've known it always. It's all I remember is Dad was born in 99, and he got there when he was, 2 or 3, and he still remembers the hotel and the blacksmith shops and all that were across the road from the ranch. And
is this where the Hays City store is now?
that's part of it.
Okay.
The lumberyard and the blacksmith shop were on that side of the road.
Okay.
On the south side of the road, which is now the Ramsey Ranch, which that's where the hotel and store and church were all located over there. And it was quite a thing. They were great big buildings. And so it occurred to me, so jumping around, a few years ago, I got a phone call from this man in Houston whose name is Lanny Utterson, and I'm trying to figure out what kind of title to put on Lanny. He's semi-retired. He's not a petroleum engineer. He may be a mechanical engineer. He's one of the few people, literally in the United States. This sounds crazy, that can design an oil refinery company down to the screw and print it out and build it.
Really?
I can do that on a cup of coffee.
And yet, on the other side of him, he's a tremendous historical researcher. So he reaches out to me a few years ago. I didn't know who he was. And I've told y'all that, in your younger years, and when the phone rings and you're trying to sell a ranch at Marfa or Blanco, you run through the screen door to get to the phone to answer it, and I've done that all my life. But in the last few years, for some reason, I don't have to answer the phone anymore if I don't want to. And so, but I did answer this one. Now my phone tells me if it's someone I know or not, and if I don't know them, I
You're
don't
not
answer
picking
the
it
phone.
up.
And if they don't want to leave word, I don't want to talk to them anyway.
That's right.
I'm sure not going to call them back. But anyway, so I started talking to Lanny, and he said, I'm a researcher, and he said, I can ferret out anything. Well, I didn't pay any attention to that. We had a good visit, and I hung up. I made no attempt to contact him back at all. I didn't really care about it. He asked me about my father and the polo, which, by the way, would be our next subject, would be polo in Hays County, because my father was a big polo player.
Polo,
Really?
the horses and the mallets and the balls.
Really? Ball wax here on the ranch. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
There you go. And so, but that's not, can't be next April. It's got to be, no, I'm kidding. But anyway, he said, do you have any pictures on your father? And I said, well, we had a few, and a few of the early newspaper write-ups. And I gave them to the Austin History Center a few years ago just to get them out of the house. There was only a few. And so we talked along a little bit, and that was about it. And I didn't call him back again. Well, about another 2 weeks, he called back and told me who he was. And I said, okay, all right, what do you want now? He said, well, to let you know what I can do, or what really I enjoy doing, he said, I have found 65 pages of articles and photographs on your father. Would you be interested in see them? We became friends right there.
Oh,
yeah.
goodness.
He has the programs that I'm sure you all do. I spent some early years, of course, in the archives, and I cannot read a microfiche, if that's the right English. You put it on a reel and you turn the wheel. Yeah. And even though I have normal eyesight, I cannot see it and I can't translate it, meaning I can't pull it out of the paper.
Right.
Some of the early Texas records from the early 1820s and 30s, I'll find the page that we're written up about because we've been here since those years. I can't find it. It'll tell me it's on page 12. Well, there's a new program now that you ask it to find that thing for you, and it'll pull it out and give it to you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was gonna say most of that stuff's got to be
any
digitized.
newspaper in the United States.
I'm gonna move your mic a little bit. Just keep talking.
Am I too close?
No, you're all right. Go ahead. Just keep going, Marshall.
Anyway, if you. So he can pull up anything in any newspaper. So he pulled up all the newspapers of the United States, and anything had something about my father, it pulled it out and sent it to him. What it did was
why was he researching this?
He's a historical researcher,
and that's
he's called on to do certain thing. An example. Montopolis Bridge in Austin, the family, it used to be there down on the Colorado, a very famous early Texas family. He was contacted by the Texas State Historical Association a year or so ago. Would he please help them on researching that family? And that's his sidekick.
Okay.
And they know it. I didn't, so I didn't know, but that's where he came from. And he had seen my stuff maybe online or in the Facebook. I don't know where it was. And he knew something about the family that kicked him into interest. But what it did for me when I got it and was able to print it out, it said my father was the same year as a year. So he was 29 in 1929, obviously. And he quit playing polo in 1939. Well, in reading those pages, it takes this young man through his whole stage of his polo career and how he matures and how it was a wonderful story because we're still at the ranch here at Kyle in Hays City. Mm-hmm. And so it just gives me this wonderful story. Ended up in Cleveland, played against the National Mexican Polo Team twice. On the finest team in the country at Cleveland. He would load his horses up here at the Butte. We call it the Butte Ranch then. Because we were on the north side of the creek. Moved to the south side of the creek when I was 15. And he would load them up and drive straight through to Cleveland in 1937, 38, straight through without stopping. Just get coffee and keep going.
Keep on going.
And I went to the hunt club when I was in the service. In the early 50s, I went up to the hunt club and was able to go and find his picture. Wild Bill from Over the Hill was on there. But when I got those newspaper articles, he was the star this fancy. Now in Cleveland, you're in the industrial center, besides Detroit, of the United States.
Sure.
So you're playing polo with the Fords, the Dodges, the Chevrolets, whoever they may be. They all live around there, and they all played polo. So Dad's playing polo with, the elite. Of
the muckety mucks.
Well, and here we are in the Depression where nobody has anything, but Coach, those people did.
Did you know that? Did you know any of this history prior to
I knew he was in Cleveland, but I didn't put that other together. Well, and so Dad had some of the finest horses. Well, they had a lot of good horses, but he had some awfully good horses. And I always wondered because, we had a big ranch, but it wasn't any money.
Yeah.
But Dad had a bunch of good horses. And when I found he would go up there and sell his horses to those people, and that's what paid his way. He would never work for anybody. Cecil Smith from Llano, who was one of the most famous polo player in those years, worked for a man out of New York somewhere. That was who he played polo for. Dad wouldn't work for anybody at all. He worked for himself. And so it ended, and I won't get off our subject here, but his polo days ended on the 1st of September, 1939, and I'll let both of you try to figure that one out. And that's when the horse sales stopped.
Is that because of World War II?
That's the day that Hitler invaded Poland.
See, there you go. A little bit of history there, Michelle. Wow.
And that day...
You were born then, right? You were around.
Shut up.
You can imagine what happened to the whole world. We just came, and here are all of these people everywhere in Cleveland, these big manufacturers and everything. They, even though they're young men, their fathers were there, they all knew that everything has changed. And it reminds me very much of the real estate business. I call you on the phone and I say, look, I've got this really good ranch I'd like to sell you because very quietly and secretly I need to make a payment on my pickup. And you say, Marshall, why don't we wait till March? No. I'm going to do it right. No, would you please? Let's go. Oh, let's wait till March.
Yeah.
Okay. So here the next day, Dad's got 10 or 15 horses up there. And it's the end of the summer. Polo is played during the summer. So he stayed after the Mexicans were there in August. He kept playing in a tournament or two. But the day after that happened, boy, things just froze solid.
Yeah.
And stopped. And so immediately within about a week, every time he'd call one of his friends who always bought all of his horses, they'd say, Bill, let's just wait till next. Let's wait and see what's going to happen. This is getting away from us. And
they waited 5 years after that for things to settle down.
And then in the deal, the Cleveland, not Inquirer, some of the biggest newspapers in the country, he was so well known that the Cleveland and the Hunt Club, whoever they were, decided to throw a big party for my father. And it's in the paper. And they started looking for him, and he was gone.
He was the guest of honor, and he left.
And headed to Texas.
Downhill, he went back to his big ranch in Texas. They couldn't find him for a week till he got home and finally found out he was down here. It was written up that way in the paper. They looked for him, and they couldn't. Here it is, and and I started laughing about that because that was the end of the deal.
So he never played polo again.
He never played polo again. He was 39 then and so forth. So, no, some people did. Cecil Smith did stay on and play over the years. He was still employed by, but Dad was not employed by anybody. But anyway, having said that, so yes, excuse me, this goes back to Lanny Otteson, who is a fabulous researcher. And when he came up with this, then we cleaned it up. I printed it out here in town, made a booklet out of it for the family. And then I'd always do the same thing. I found out the Polo Association headquarters in Florida. I called them down, and all they do was sell goddamn T-shirts. They didn't have a clue about anything. That's literally what.
Is that right? No history there, huh?
And I think coffee cups, things like that. So I got somebody on the line that knew a little bit about the headquarters of Polo. And I said, I want to send you this book about polo. What? This polo. What? Kind of like that. But I did send them this. And because of my problems with research and things, I spent 2 months putting an index in it. Now, you've got 4 players to a team, and you've got a tournament with 10 teams.
Oh, jeez.
I put every one of them, corrected
gosh.
every one of their names. Every time he played in a tournament, every one of their names is in the index in the back.
Jeez.
Which is extremely important. And I did the same thing with my Kuykendall history book, which took me 2 months to do it also, so that it has a really, really fine index.
Yeah.
Anyway, I sent it to them. They didn't say kiss my foot or anything about it, but I did, just like I did for a friend of mine who was in the SEALs.
Oh, yeah.
But that's another.
So what do you think they did with this when you sent it to them?
They put it on the shelf.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't.
I wonder if they put it on their website or something.
No, I asked them to.
Yeah.
I asked them to please do that. Had a annual or something, or maybe a deal they sent out to all the members. And I asked them to do that, and I never heard another word out of them.
You know, as you were talking, Marshall, I looked it up as far as polo in Texas, and I found something that said the first polo game in Texas is believed to have been played in 1883 in San Antonio. Captain Glenn Turkhand, I guess, a retired British officer, formed the Texas Polo Club and held an exposition game. So who knew that polo here in Texas has been around that long?
It was Indian, and the British got it from the Indians.
Yeah, it says it would believe that training horses to play polo was an effective way to prepare them for military life.
Yeah, and the military all had teams. So as Dad got more active, then he played against all the military teams, San Antonio, Fort Sam, Fort Sill in Oklahoma, and others. All of them had a polo team. And so Dad played, and then Cleveland played against the military, but then mainly up. But yes, they had it. And then, of course, the cavalry, as you know, was disbanded in 1939. We went to armor.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So, and also we sold to the Army. So it's the whole
sold
concept.
Horses to the Army?
Oh, yeah. But in the early days, for the cavalry. Cavalry ended in 39.
Yeah.
Well, apparently in Bernie, there's a Texas Polo Club hotel.
There's one here. Oh yeah.
Really?
There's one, not here. There's one in Austin.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, that's still around.
Huh.
But, okay. So let's go back to the Kuykendall Ranch. So here we sit, and down on our southwest corner is this corner we call Hay City. And I knew the hotels and things were there, and I knew Dad had seen them. So I called Lanny. I said, okay, we got another deal, because he's done 2 or 3 things for me on this research. I said, my friend Kate Johnson in Kyle, who was on the Halifax Ranch, is the head of the Hays County Historical Association, and just does a marvelous job. And so I called Kate, and she had some stuff on Hay City, but not much. I said, well, do you have the picture of the hotel? No. Do you have a picture of the church? No. I said, I do.
Oh,
I do. Because when I called Lanny, I said, Lanny, plug it into the system and let's go. So he did. And boy, it got really interesting in a hurry with his stuff. And it bounces around all through the county when you think about it. Hezekiah Williams was born somewhere in 1840 and moved to Texas, and lived in Austin.
Uh-huh.
And he was in the cattle business and many other businesses. He married, I need to get on my spectacles here 1 second and take a peek just so I can say it correctly.
Do you need a light?
No, I'm good. He married Eliza Johnson in, here we go, 1879. They were both born in 1840 and both lived here.
Okay.
Well, her name was Elizabeth, but she went by Lizzie. And she had moved down from Missouri after she was born, and she lived in Austin also. Or no, excuse me, she lived in Hays County.
Okay. Because
her father, Johnson, built the Johnson Institute. The Johnson Institute is the institute that's on Camp Ben McCullough Road that you all may or may not know as Friday Mountains Boys Camp.
I don't. Do you know where that is?
No.
Okay, that's good.
What's it called? Friday
Mountain Boys Camp. Take a peek. Okay, so let's go a little further. let's get the Hindu temple and put a Hindu temple on the edge of Camp Ben McCullough, about midway up where Nutty Brown comes down and touches there at that station. Right there behind it is the Hindu temple, right?
Yeah.
It's Barsanadam or
Barsanadam, yeah.
It's on the Johnson Institute land.
Oh.
And some of the buildings there that were the boys' camp earlier were Johnson Institute, where Mr. Johnson taught school and had boarders there back after the Civil War.
Was that like a
It was a boarding. All the schools were all boarding schools, so he boarded people there. And then later on, a family in Austin whose name I remember, but I can't recall it right now, became all that. And so now the Barsanadam owns most of it, and I don't know whether they've torn the buildings down or not. Okay, well. So here we have this major history about this guy, and here's Lizzie, his daughter. She goes to work in Austin for Driscoll and some other cattle drovers, I should say, as a secretary and a bookkeeper. And so let's see, 40 and 20. So she's 20 when the war starts in 1860. So right after the war, they begin the trail drives in 66 or 7.
Okay.
And she began to do all their books and things. And every time she got $1, she bought a cow.
Oh, jeez.
And she got so many cows, she had to lease some land. Of every dollar she became a tremendous businesswoman. And so by the time 1870 came along, she had a whole herd of cattle.
Oh, yeah.
And she, at that time, and she's most interesting now again, because let me give you the deal here correctly, in June the 1st, 1871, because of George Littlefield, the cattleman and all that, she registered her cattle brand under the name of Elizabeth Johnson, and it was marked as CY. And it turns out later on that she's the only woman of the 4 women who went up the trail. She went up the trail twice herself. She's the only woman who went up the trail with her own cattle marked with her own brand.
Oh.
And lately, these other women, the other 3 women, have been in the National Women Hall of Fame for many, many years. But Lizzie was just put in 2013 in the famous women. And you can pull up Lizzie Johnson. Let me start over. Pull up Lizzie Williams.
We're actually looking at pictures of some of the buildings that are still on this land where Barsanadam is now.
That's interesting.
Yeah, there's some houses and.
Yeah, that's the Johnson Institute.
Yeah.
Okay, so Lizzie now goes up the trail, and so in this year she marries this guy, as I said, spectacles again. She marries him in 1879, but being the businesswoman that she is, you'll love this. She gets him to sign a prenup. And ain't never heard of a prenup, much less now, much less then. And she told him, said, what's mine is mine, what yours is yours. You ain't going to get any of it. And she became very wealthy, and he was always a trader, but she was bailing him out. He died in 2014, and she died in 24. But she was bailing him out with big money, always, because she had a ton of money.
Marshall, let me ask you a quick question. What exactly was the Friday Mountain Camp? What was
it? Was a boys' camp.
So was it orphaned boys?
I don't know, and I think I'm trying to think of the people that still live around there now that had it.
And that's separate from the Johnson Institute, or they are
Johnson
one and the
Institute
same?
was before that. That was a school. Maybe it was a religious school, I think, of some sort. But I think they boarded there.
Okay.
And I think that, you know what? It was a summer camp.
Okay.
I think it was a summer camp.
And this was on the northwest portion of your.
No.
It was just
we're not. We're working our way down the road.
Okay, gotcha.
We ain't got there yet.
Okay,
Okay,
all right.
I found it. It was occupied in 1852 to 1872 by First Central Texas Secondary School. The Johnson, I think it was misspelled.
That's a
for the Johnson Institute.
Yeah.
Property
Texas Historical Landmark.
Yeah, that's not Friday Mountain Boys Camp there. It was Johnson Institute in those years. Yeah. And then later on, and I know the family's name. I'm sorry, I can't remember it right now.
Is that building still standing?
I don't know.
Interesting. Okay,
So-
sorry to interrupt you. I was just kind of.
I don't know why Hezekiah decided to buy land in central Hays County. So he goes out in the late 80s and begins to buy up thousands of acres in the Hays City area. Now let's go back to Hays County. There'd been a conversation since after the Civil War to have the county seat in the center of the county. And it turns out that the Hays City intersection there, the corner, is within about a half a mile of the geographic center.
Where that new roundabout is.
So there's been an argument about it, and it had been tried by, and I think about the man here, Dr. Cannon.
Yeah.
Well, Cannon farmed a little village out there on Onion Creek, which he called Cannon something. I just got it this morning. And that was his first attempt to have a county seat, and it was not successful. Huh. Then later on, when Hezekiah bought his land out there, he had this idea, and it was not hurt because the county courthouse in San Marcos burned down in 1907. Oh. So immediately he kicked it into gear, and he farmed across the road from the Hays City
store
cafe.
Yeah.
On the south side of the road, which is now the Ramsey Ranch.
Right.
He plotted that in a 500-acre plots and built a big hotel, barns and all, and church and all that. On the north side of the road, on that other side where the store is today, was his big lumberyard and blacksmith shop.
Okay.
And those were all standing after 1900 when my father was there. So he would ride down there in that area horseback, and he would see across there. And then when the courthouse burned down, Hezekiah, who was always doing around and getting in trouble, and
wheeling and
she'd
dealing.
have to bail him out. He started trying to get this to be the center of the county, and he got a resolution, whatever it is, going. And I think he lost by 14 votes to get the county moved from San Marcos to the Hays City. And he also contracted for a train track to be laid from Kyle up there to pick up people and bring it back.
Okay.
Anyway, all this was under a contract.
Oh.
And so here comes Joe Cruz. Now, Joe Cruz, sometime you'll find it, is a very early name in this part, and he was the foreman of the Kuykendall Ranch.
Okay.
He went to work for grandmother. My grandfather died of pneumonia at 35 in 1905 there on the ranch. And Joe had been working for him, and when Gil, my grandfather, died, then he became my grandmother's foreman. And he knew he's from right there from that area. He's buried right around the corner from it. And he remembers going down there, and Hezekiah had surveyed some of the stakes across the gravel road into our ranch. And Joe didn't like it, so he went down and pulled the stakes up and let it be known that was Kuykendall Ranch, not the Hays City Ranch, because that's the southwest corner of our 11,000 acres. And see, my grandfather bought that ranch from a banker in San Marcos named Hutchison. Well, Hutchison and this guy were partners in 15 or 20,000 acres. What Hezekiah had done, I hadn't heard of it before. He bought up tax land. He paid $5 per section.
Oh my gosh.
For 640 acres in that area until he amassed 20 or 30,000 acres in that area.
$5 a section.
And
that's insane.
And that's that's across the road, halfway to Wimberley. And then on the north side of the road, from the store itself, let's go west several miles. And then let's go north on that side of the road and even over on us until you cross over the top of Onion Creek. So all of that whole area, he either owned it or had it under contract for a while.
Gosh, geez.
And then somewhere in that deal, he separated some land out that he sold to the man in San Marcos. And And we bought that from Hutchinson. We paid him $4.50 for that 11,000
per acre or per section?
No, per acre. Yeah.
Okay.
The other was the other. I just read that the other day.
Yeah.
About $5 per section.
$4.50 would have surprised. $4.50 per acre sounds really low to me, but $5 a section sounds like
rather low.
That's candy money for a lot of land.
So he plots all this out, and then he's not able to do it. And then a man named Vogt, V-O-G-T, I knew him from being down around Brenham. He was an old German feller. He came up and bought out of this. He bought 15,000 acres in there. On both sides of the store, the same land that Hezekiah had, he bought that from the estate and from Lizzie. When he died in 14, Lizzie took over, and all the buildings were still. Oh, you're going to love this.
Yeah.
So don't ask me how they found this deal, but they decided to shoot a movie out there.
Huh.
And in 1816, where is this dadgum thing?
In 1860?
Excuse me. Let me start over. See, you got me having fun here.
Good.
In 1916, here we go. A film crew moved to Hays City to film a new silent movie down by the Rio Grande. J.D. Biles, an old ranch family in Wembley, as a boy remembers it because his father helped him. And in the movie, we're going to be William S. Hart and Lillian Russell, early silent movie stars. And they all stayed at the Hays City Hotel across the road.
Gosh, wow.
And they were all running cattle, and I love this. So the movie decided they wanted to have a stampede or a stompede, and asked Mr. Biles if he'd go get 1,000 steers. Now, I want you just to run around here now and see if you can just get out there. Well, in about a week, he had 1,000 steers next. I mean, that's just how big that old country was.
Gosh.
So this is 1916. So he's got 1,000 steers in a pasture right next door. So when they get ready for the stampede, they're going to run him in front of the hotel. And so they did. They shot their guns off and ran him in front of the hotel and had an old Buick, 1916 Buick with a camera on the roof, and they run along and filmed it. And of course, the woman fell off on the ground, and then the Hart came by and saved her, and that was the movie. Now, I asked Lanny, I said, Lanny Otteson, find that movie. And it's not findable. I mean, he's done his FBI, CIA search.
There was a big fire at one of the major film studios back in L.A. many years ago, and they lost a lot of movies.
You can imagine what would have happened had we been able to find that movie. And they filmed it in front of the hotel, and then they called all the group together and took a picture in front of the hotel. And when I talked to Kate Johnson,
is this the picture?
Yeah, hold on.
Oh,
she doesn't have it. But let me read. The problem is I'm 100 years old, and there's nobody here knows what I'm talking about. So there's not going to be hardly anybody will know the name. But these names are stuck in my memory forever.
These are big names, though, because when I'm looking at Hezekiah Williams and Lizzie Johnson, you told me to look up Lizzie,
the cattle queen of Texas,
and she was an early and highly successful investor in the Texas cattle business. But after the Civil War, she rounded up stray cattle, branded them, and drove them north. She was one of the first women to drive cattle up to the Chisholm Trail.
That's what Marshall said,
but it was funny. It said back here when she married him in 79, she did so with the prenuptial contract that kept her land, cattle, and financial affairs in her own name and in her own control.
Yeah, that's right.
Go Lizzie.
Like Marshall said. Yeah.
Now I want to read you off these old Hays County names that were there at the movie, who ran the cattle and all that. Okay, on the way to Buda, from the Salt Lick, you go down through by the Ruby Ranch and all that, and you go over the top of a high hill. There's a white house there.
Yeah. I have looked at that house many times.
Wait. Where's this?
It's
on the way to Buda.
Okay.
You go down past the Ruby Ranch, and all of a sudden you go over a high hill.
It's past 1826.
Yes, I know.
No, you haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
And let's go back to the high hill. That's Beacon Hill. Because the beacons were there in the old days when we flew airplanes from Austin to San Antonio. That was a navigational beacon. They had to see it visually. All right, the next hill right over there, there's two of them. That's Carpenter Hill.
Okay.
Old man Carpenter lived there in a log cabin, and as a little boy, I remember him. He rode into Butte every day to get his mail on horseback, and he had on high top boots and spurs. And that old man was something else. So here we go. At the movie was Fred Carpenter, Ben Brown, Joe Biles, that's from Wembley, Mr. and Mrs. Howard, Mr. and Mrs. Russell, Mr. and Mrs. Ruby of the Ruby Ranch.
Oh.
Birdwell, that's from Butte. Then Lillian Russell and Sherman Birdwell, they're from Butte. Jeff Biles, that's from Wembley. And here's Pink Greenhall. He bought the part of the Kuykendall ranches for the son did. Here is John Saunders and Felix Monsolo. Now, Felix Monsolo, I'll come back to that in a minute. And here's Jake Wisnat, and here's Bino Monsolo.
Wow.
And then here's William S. Hart. Okay, when you go by the Hay City store,
I'm going to take a look.
Excuse me. And you go down there 2 or 3 miles on that road, just straight as an arrow, and it angles down to the left as it goes down toward, you can have that, down toward the Episcopal Church. And it flattens out for just before you hit the curb at the Episcopal Church. Yeah. You don't know it unless you slow down. But there's some graves out there about 50 yards in that pasture.
I've seen those.
Joe Cruz is buried there, and the Monsolos are buried
really?
there.
Wow.
And so here you got all these early names all circled around Hay City store. Oh, and we need to, do I have, this is my write-up.
Down by the Rio Grande was the name of the movie.
Okay. We got to remember that. Don't give up yet. The store, now, this cafe is owned by Tamara and Travis Tyndall. They're dear friends. I know them well. And they're the ones who bought the store. I don't know whether they started the convenience store or not. Boy, I tell you what, now, what is in the world?
I'm famous for my stalking abilities.
I want to. If that was filmed at Hay City, we need a copy of it.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
in the meantime, but Travis and them have just done a fantastic job out there, and I don't want to let that go without it. Travis and his wife, and then, but with Lanny Otteson, his ability to find this stuff for me over the years is fantastic. And not many people know that Hay City Corner, which is now Hay City Cafe and all that BS, has a wonderful old history in the area. Joe Cruz, wrong word, Joe Stewart bought the whole ranch in there, probably about 1930, both 1,000 acres on the south side where the Ramses are and 1,000 acres behind the store.
Oh, wow.
In 1966, Joe won't call me, and I sold that 1,000 acres on the north side of the road where the store, there was nothing but a water trough there when I sold it to the man who owned the San Marcos Telephone Company, whose name I forget, I'm sorry. When he died, his son, who still owned the company, he's the one who broke the ranch up into those different tracts. Most of them are larger tracts, but he's the one who created the first convenience store on the corner. And I'll have to find his name.
It's still there, isn't it? That's
a cafe.
No, but on the other side, isn't there something?
That's what we sold.
Okay.
That's a different deal. That's on the Kyle side.
Okay.
There wasn't anything there till, see, Mother died in 93, and we still owned all that country there, I guess the store.
Okay.
And my brother and I subdivided that.
Okay, go ahead, finish your story.
And I sold that corner to the people who put the liquor store in.
Okay.
And that new stuff they're doing there, that belongs to them, because that side was the Kyle precinct, and they were wet.
Oh.
There's enough Mexicans in Kyle, they voted the county wet.
Oh,
There were nothing but Baptists in Wembley, and they kept it dry.
okay.
And they drive all the way over there to get something to drink.
Oh, yeah,
but
that's-
they would vote dry in Wembley, but they'd
Okay.
come drink over
Yeah,
there. Same people in Kyle did the same thing.
Yeah,
They'd come out to our place. I mean, at San Marcos. They kept San Marcos dry during the whole years I was at college.
Yes.
You had to go all the way down to Be-Back halfway to Seguin to get a drink.
Yeah.
And
Cedar Valley
all the
Grocery
people
was
who
the
lived
same
in
thing.
San Marcos would come out to the ranch to see Dad and drink all his whiskey and go back and then vote dry again. That's just what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Did you find them in there?
I did. I found, and it said where it was filmed.
Silent movie.
Did it
Yeah.
actually say Hays County?
It just says San Antonio, but I'm sure
Says
because
the
it's,
release date is May 20th, 1924.
yeah, this is actually
I
because
can't
there were
believe
there
that.
were two of them, so this is actually the original.
Down by the Rio Grande, because the one you just found
Yeah.
before was actually a remake.
It was a
looks like.
remake. Yes.
I can't believe that.
So
at
I'll
that.
send this one to you.
Oh,
We'll-
boy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And to Lanny, I'll send it to him, too.
That's on imdb.com.
Yes.
That is wonderful.
Down by the Rio Grande, 1924.
Yeah.
Director
I
Alan
can't
James.
believe you found that. It's wonderful. Anyway, so it's an interesting place, and now they've got it fixed up so nice, and it's a great place to eat. You got to get there a little early, or you can't get in.
Yeah, it's great. I love that place.
But the whole world is changing, and everything's growing so much. And I started in real estate in '60. Everything was, all the ranches were pretty much still intact here. And, when I built my office, my log office here on 290 between here and the Hays County line, which used to be called
Cedar Valley.
Cedar Valley.
Yeah.
There were only two buildings in 1995, but literally between here and when I built that long
Yeah.
building.
That building's still there. You can drive by and see it right,
And then
before
the lawyer owned the
Sunset
one on the
Canyon
corner. He built
Baptist.
it, and then Randy Hutto, still here. He had the other one down this way, not far, and that was all there was for 8 miles. Now that's of course that's not, come on, that's been 23 years. So
Yeah.
it's a lifetime away in the area of the world of Texas and whatever that has the most fantastic growth. If you like, I like it. I mean, I'm not a look. I don't like the traffic. Who cares? You can get a job. If you don't want to have traffic, move to Iowa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Growth is
don't have a
inevitable.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But be responsible about it. Be responsible and respecting about the growth. And I think that you really kind of do that with knowing the history. And I don't think I've ever really met anybody quite like you that cares as much about the history of this area.
Just rolls off the top of your head with all this great information and names
I'm
and
better on
dates.
the other.
Yeah.
On the
it's really
Kuykendall
good.
stuff. This one I had to remember. I had to go back and kind of. That's when they got married.
Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful? Right. And that is so clue. I love that.
Yeah.
That's a little bit later.
She was a looker, old Lizzie Williams.
When she
was a
died,
teacher.
they thought she was a miser. Did you read that?
Oh no, I didn't. No.
Well, she when after he died, she'd wander the streets of Austin, and she had these big clothes like that on all the time, and they thought she was a miser. When she died, she had $250,000 in the bank, and ranches all the way to Culberson County and Alpine and Marfa.
That's funny. Because she developed a reputation for being miserly and often appeared impoverished, it came as a surprise to many that when she died in 1924, she was worth $250,000 and had property in several counties. $250,000 in 1924 was probably like a billionaire now.
In the bank. The bank.
It said that they thought she became reclusive and was seen as eccentric.
And she had a sack of fancy diamonds and emeralds and rubies that she wore. And she had put them in a sack, and they found, and when I pulled that up this morning, I pulled up the dirty one first. Then somebody had cleaned up the grave because I put I download those because see what y'all have done to me. Now I'm going to have to write a biography on both of those
That's
people.
right.
You should. They look fascinating.
She's in the National Cowgirl Hall of Fame
She is.
and Museum. So
Inducted in 2013.
Yeah.
she sounds fascinating. She sounds really, really fascinating. But I like the fact that she was known as the cattle queen of Texas, for sure.
Well, folks, dadgummit,
Marshall, this is fantastic, man. We love this stuff. And every time you come in, I feel like I know a lot about Hays County in this area, but every time you come in, I'm just reminded I just know barely anything.
You know what, Marshall? Anytime I'm just gonna make an announcement here. Anytime you think you have found something new and exciting, you call Steve and I up. We will put you on the podcast and we'll just release a special episode.
Yeah, it's exciting to have this memorialized.
Let's go to Polo
online.
We'll go to Polo next.
Yeah,
we'll do some.
yeah. Well, I want to know about the mountain lion that ate Jimmy and whorehouses in Hays County.
Yeah,
we got to do an episode.
We
on
were going to
those
talk
two.
about whorehouses.
Well,
and
that I kind of have to leave that out because it might get out. But I could talk about the time the mountain lion ate little Jimmy Ed Phelps.
Well, I think we'll have to do that in another episode.
Yeah, I think we will.
He's buried there at Driftwood.
Right
at the church.
Yeah, right across from the church in the graveyard.
Yeah.
What did I say? Yeah,
You said
at
Driftwood.
store.
Are you talking?
He's right there.
Oh, he is right by the
His name
church.
is scratched on an old rock. That they scratched his name on a limestone rock, and it's right there. You can go. I had people go by there recently and hunt for it. It was when I told them the story. They went out there and looked for it,
And they found it.
I don't know that they did, but they did look for it.
Oh, wow.
That's fun.
And
Well, we're going to do that one next time.
all right,
Okay,
well,
so all you do,
I got
you just
that
call
down.
us up. You call us up. You say you got some stories. Now, I know that you're about to go on a trip with your daughter. You had to postpone it a little bit, right? So you're going to go on something with your daughter here pretty
You
soon.
snuck.
I did.
Oh, she's good at that,
We're
Marshall.
going to make a run at Nebraska of the first part of the Oregon Trail. We had it in June, and I hurt my leg, and I didn't say anything. So we're going to go next week, the 19th, for 4 days.
Oh,
We're going to
nice.
fly on the fancy Allegiance Airlines in Austin.
Ooh.
And direct into Omaha, because that's where it started there on the Missouri. And we're going to go over to the Wyoming line. It's been 4 days going up the Platte. That's where up the Platte River, and stop at Fort Kearney and Fort so and so and different museum. We won't do as much because a lot more is in Wyoming, but we'll do a considerable amount, and we hope to get in between snowstorms.
I think the
I was
weather should
gonna
be
say,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have never set foot in. I've been in a lot of places, but never set foot in Nebraska.
Oh.
And Sarita, my younger daughter, called and she said, "I got to go." So I got both girls going with me,
Oh,
and they're
that's-
driving. So I've got Mary Alice Kuykendall, my daughter, and Sarita Kuykendall Bay, B-A-Y. They all live in Austin, and so we're going on Allegiance, and they've already got everything already planned for me. Got the car,
That's
got
fantastic.
the hotels. All the stuff all the way over. And then I've told them which ones I want to stop at. Excuse me, it's where I want to stop, not at, And when we leave the airport, there is a Mormon museum right there within a mile of the airport. And we've got to stop there for a moment. Now, we don't get there till noon, and we're going over to Fort Kearney, or the Kearney, Nebraska, which is 3 or 4 hours away, but we're going to do it anyway, because that, when there was a group of Mormons in Europe that belonged to some sort of organization that was kind of a Mormon deal, and they said there's a name for it. They were cart pullers. They pulled a cart like pulling the back of a wheelbarrow. Where the wheels are behind you. And they came over, by several hundred came over in the late 1840s and ended up there in Omaha. And
Probably came over from New York or someplace on the
from
East
New York,
Coast
and
carrying
came
these
over
carts.
and finally got there, and they wintered there in Omaha and crossed the Missouri River that year. And this museum is about that. And then they pull those carts all the way to Salt Lake City.
Oh,
Oh,
my gosh,
well, I tell you what, Nebraska, I'm putting you on blast. You better roll
Yeah,
out
you
the
better
red
watch
carpet. This is Texas royalty and one of Texas's favorite sons here. And man, you are just, I just love being around you and your energy and just soaking up all of this knowledge.
And I feel like we just
Thank
scratched the surface, Marshall. We're
always
barely
scratching,
learning
yeah.
from
You
you.
better hurry. No,
Well, thanks for coming in.
it's a pleasure. Thank you both. I hope you don't make me wait too long.
We won't, Marshall.
No. We're going to
Anytime.
get you in again soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Ready to turn your land dreams into reality? Look no further than Capital Farm Credit.
Need a loan for your perfect piece of land? Capital Farm Credit is there for you.
Their dedicated team will tailor a loan to fit your unique needs because your dreams are their priority.
Capital Farm Credit, your land, your legacy. Visit capitalfarmcredit.com or Mark Rutledge at 512-892-4425.
Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better.
Capital Farm Credit, an equal credit housing lender. Elevate your living experience with M. Elliott Studio, your trusted partner in interior design, registered and licensed by the state of Texas.
You want your home to reflect your personal style and identity. Investing in a well-crafted design doesn't just beautify your home, it enriches your life.
Team principal and owner, Montana Elliott, understands the profound impact of a thoughtfully designed space. From remodeling to full design, M. Elliott Studio is the first step to unlocking your style.
Turn your aspirations into reality. Tailored to your taste and desires, M. Elliott Studio will work to create an environment that embraces your style with style.
Your space, their expertise.
melliotstudio.com 512-781-0224.
This show has been brought to you in part by the real estate pros at the Mallet Integrity Team. When you're looking to buy or sell, you need them on your side. Why settle for less when you can have real estate done right? Give them a call at 512-829-2062 or get more info at malletintegrityteam.com.
You know you like us, so go now to Apple Podcast or Spotify and leave us a review. Why don't ya? We love your feedback and comments. Email us at malletandmichelle@gmail.com.
Thanks for putting up with us.